If any other Naruto character had done exactly what Itachi did, would you guys still call the guy a hero? Would you still like him? Because that's something I find really funny about Itachi. The dude is treated like a martyr, a genius, the hero of Konoha, the perfect brother. Some people talk about him like he's practically a saint with a Sharingan. But then you remember the guy's track record, and it gets kind of complicated, right? He slaughtered his own clan, traumatized the brother he claimed he wanted to protect, set that brother up for a lifetime of hate and revenge. And on top of that, tried to dictate pretty much every single step Sasuke should take after that. I'm Shoyo, and before anyone thinks I just hate Itachi, I don't. Actually, I like him a lot. He's easily one of my favorite Naruto characters. The problem is when the reveal of his true intentions becomes some sort of moral free pass for people. Before it was, oh my god, this guy is a monster. Then it turns into, no, wait, he did it all for the village and for Sasuke. So he was a hero. And I think there is a massive gap between those two things. You can understand why someone did something without necessarily thinking it was the right thing to do. The Uchiha situation was already a complete mess. After the Nine Tails attack, the clan got more and more isolated within Konoha. Tensions rose, part of them started planning a coup, and Itachi ended up stuck right in the middle. He was an Uchiha, but he also worked for Konoha. He was a double agent, and making things even worse, he was basically just a kid. Enter Danzo. And it would be super easy to pin all the blame on Itachi and pretend Konoha had no part in that tragedy. Danzo puts a 13-year-old kid in a situation that would be insane even for an adult. Either the coup happens, risking a civil war where maybe other villages take advantage of the chaos, or the Uchiha get wiped out before that. There are no pretty options here. Itachi chooses to take part in the massacre, and Sasuke is spared. Does that help explain his decision? For sure. Does it automatically make it heroic? That's a whole different conversation. Because, man, the entire clan was exterminated. And the scene with Itachi's parents shows this contradiction perfectly. Fugaku and Mikoto accept what's going to happen. Itachi is devastated. And it's obvious he didn't want to kill those people. He's not a psychopath, but he still killed those people. Both things can be true at the same time. Itachi was a victim of Konoha, of Danzo, of that whole situation. But he also created victims. And the biggest one was left alive, Sasuke. Because this is where defending Itachi starts getting way harder for me. On the night of the massacre, Sasuke was a kid. He comes home, finds everybody dead, finds his own parents dead, and finds out the guy responsible was exactly the brother he looked up to the most. Bro, the damage is already done. That kid is gonna hate you for the rest of his life. But apparently, Itachi looked at the situation and thought, no, I think it's still missing something, and drops a Tsukuyomi on Sasuke. He forces a child to relive that tragedy literally thousands of times. And I get the overall logic of the plan. Itachi wanted Sasuke to completely believe he was a criminal. He didn't want him to find out the truth about Konoha and wanted to focus all of his brother's hatred on himself. Fair enough, but I really can't understand why it was necessary to mess up the kid's head to that level. Sasuke had just lost everybody. His brother confessed to the massacre. I think he was pretty much convinced already. He didn't need a replay. And worse, Itachi starts turning that trauma into a tool. He basically points Sasuke's life toward a single thing. Get stronger, hate me, spend your life thinking about me, come kill me one day. And he even throws in that BS story about having to kill his best friend to get the Mangekyo Sharingan. Your life goal is now revenge, and maybe murder your best friend over there if you need an upgrade. And there's even some irony in this, because when Sasuke gets the chance to kill Naruto at the Valley of the End, he decides not to do it precisely because he doesn't want to follow the path Itachi set for him. Now, somebody might say, yeah, but Itachi was 13 at the time too. He was desperate, traumatized, being manipulated, true, and I would agree with that defense way more if he had just stopped there. But years later, he runs into Sasuke again. Sasuke goes after him completely desperate, tries to attack, can't do absolutely anything, and gets humiliated. Itachi could have just beaten him, walked away, and called it a day. But no, Tsukuyomi all over again. He takes the biggest trauma of his own brother's life and throws Sasuke right back into it. And now, he isn't that 13-year-old kid making a desperate decision in the dead of night anymore. Itachi had years to think, and he still believes that psychologically destroying Sasuke is a valid way to push him forward. It's after this that Sasuke's obsession with power gets even worse. He realizes he's still absurdly far behind. Itachi sees Naruto growing and eventually decides to leave Konoha to go after Orochimaru. I'm not saying Itachi was the only one responsible for that, obviously not. Sasuke made his own choices. Orochimaru manipulated him. There was the curse mark, the rivalry with Naruto, a bunch of stuff going on. But you also can't spend years feeding a kid's hatred and then pretend that hatred didn't have consequences. And that leads to a part of Itachi's character that I think is way more interesting than just arguing about whether he was a good guy or a bad guy. His plan for Sasuke was insane. When you explain it quickly, it sounds nice. Itachi will become the big villain of the story. Sasuke would grow up hating him, get strong because of that hatred, eventually kill his clan's murderer, and could return to Konoha as the Uchiha who avenged his family. Itachi would die as a monster. Sasuke would live as a hero. Beautiful. Until we think about it for like 15 seconds. Because how the hell was he sure Sasuke would reach that exact outcome? Itachi basically traumatized the kid and bet that this trauma would produce the exact person he envisioned. And look at the path Sasuke actually takes. He gets obsessed with revenge, leaves Konoha, goes after Orochimaru, cuts off his bonds, gets stronger, and finally kills Itachi. Up to that point, half the plan surprisingly worked. Then he finds out the truth, and the whole thing blows up. Sasuke doesn't go back to Konoha as a hero. He wants to destroy Konoha. Then he gets involved with the Akatsuki, attacks Killer Bee, crashes the 5 Kage summit, and gets further and further away from the life Itachi had pictured for him. And there's an argument that usually comes up here, but Itachi had no way of knowing that would happen. Yeah, that's exactly the point. He didn't. So why did his entire plan depend on it? Itachi's plan would only work perfectly if, for years, Sasuke reacted exactly the way he imagined. A traumatized, lonely kid, surrounded by people trying to manipulate him. Good luck predicting that. Itachi was a genius as a ninja. That doesn't mean he understood people the same way. But there's an even weirder layer to this story. Because slowly you realize Itachi didn't just want to keep Sasuke alive. He wanted to dictate Sasuke's life. And here's where things really change. He chose who Sasuke should hate. He chose the lie he should believe in. He chose that he should live for revenge. He chose who he should kill. And in his head, after all that, Sasuke was still supposed to stay loyal to Konoha. Itachi's problem was never a lack of love. He loved Sasuke, but loving someone doesn't automatically mean you know what's best for them. And Itachi had a massive problem with thinking he knew. Maybe the biggest example of that is the Kodo Matsukami. Itachi knew there was a chance Sasuke would find out the truth about the massacre and turn against Konoha, which, let's be real, wouldn't exactly be the most unpredictable reaction on the planet. The kid finds out the village helped wipe out his family. He might get a little pissed off, and Itachi sets up a fix for that. Shisui's eye. The idea was that if Sasuke took Itachi's eyes and came into contact with Naruto, the Koto Matsukami would trigger to make him protect Konoha. Think about what that means. Even if Sasuke found out everything, even if he finally knew his own life had been built on a lie, even if he came to a different conclusion than Itachi's, Itachi had still decided Sasuke was wrong, and he was fully prepared to overwrite his free will. That's why it's really hard to sum up their relationship, as Itachi did everything for his brother. He did, but his own way, and that own way caused a massive disaster. He wanted to protect Sasuke so badly that he couldn't trust Sasuke to choose his own path. Actually, come to think of it, this doesn't just happen with Sasuke. It's kind of Itachi's whole pattern. He tries to carry everything by himself. The clan's situation, the truth about Konoha, the massacre, Sasuke's safety, his own reputation. He decides he's gonna take all of that, put it on his back, and figure out the best solution for everybody on his own. And ironically, that's exactly where he screws up the most. Because when Itachi comes back via the Edo Tensei, he starts to realize this himself. That's a detail I really like about the character, and one that sometimes seems to be ignored by the very people who defend him the hardest. Itachi himself doesn't end Naruto thinking he did everything flawlessly, quite the opposite. He admits he tried to handle everything alone, admits he manipulated Sasuke, and that he should have trusted him more. He even considers that if he'd been honest with Sasuke from the beginning, maybe things could have gone differently, which is kind of funny, because you've got fans defending some of Itachi's decisions harder than Itachi himself would. The guy literally came back from the dead and realized he messed up a lot, and there are people replying, "No, Itachi, you're wrong. Your plan was perfect. Let's chill for a second." And that's exactly why I don't like just calling Itachi a villain. He isn't, at least not in that simple way. He was an extremely young kid thrown into the middle of an insane political conflict, manipulated by Danzo, and used by a village that should have protected him. He genuinely believed he was preventing a bigger tragedy. He sacrificed his own reputation, accepted being hated, and spent years knowing the person he loved the most wanted to kill him. A lot of his decisions didn't stem from malice. They came from fear, desperation, and that bad habit of thinking he had to fix everything by himself. But acknowledging that doesn't force anyone to pretend those decisions worked out. Itachi can be a victim and a culprit at the same time. In fact, I think that's the best way to understand the character. He was used by a horrible system and ended up becoming one of that system's most brutal tools. He wanted to stop a tragedy and took part in another. He wanted to save Sasuke, but thought that saving Sasuke also meant choosing who he was supposed to be. And when you look at Sasuke's entire journey, it's hard to call that a success. He saved his brother's life that night, but then spent years trying to control what that brother would do with the life he had saved. And maybe that's exactly what makes Itachi such a great character. If he had done everything right, honestly, he'd be way less interesting. He's extremely smart and makes some absurdly bad decisions. He loves his brother more than anyone else, yet he's one of the people who hurts that brother the most. He wants to control all the outcomes, and in the end, practically everything slips out of his control. So I think it's way more interesting to look at Itachi that way, rather than just putting a halo on his head and calling him a misunderstood hero. You don't have to pretend he did everything right to like him. I like him precisely because he did a lot of things wrong, and realized it too late. So I'll go back to the question from the beginning. If any other character had slaughtered their their own clan, traumatized the brother they claimed to love, pushed that brother into a life based on revenge, and even set up a genjutsu to control his decisions in case he ever thought differently one day. But without the Sharingan, without being all handsome, without the sad background music, and without that whole tragic aura around him, would you guys still call this guy a hero? Let me know in the comments.